Hey guys, my name's Macy, and I, like many others, have been affected by drug addiction in my family. Have any of you guys ever been affected by this situation? If so, do you believe that those with a drug addiction or any type of addiction, anything, can change? I want to break the stigma that parents, family members, friends, and so on who suffer with drug addiction or any type of addiction, any type of situation that you don't believe someone can come out of and change for the better, they can. Um, I want to show you that even those that have an addiction can get through it and be there when things seem to get even harder. Here's my story. I remember being about 9 years old, and late one night we got a call that no one could find my aunt. We didn't know where she was, and we knew that she had a drug addiction. We knew that she was using drugs. And at this time, she had no kids involved. She was in her early 20s. Whatever. We stayed up late that night, driving, looking around, going all over. And like I said, I was around 9 years old. So this was a lot for me. I didn't really understand what was going on. But I remember looking up at the stars and begging for my aunt to be alive, that we would find her. That night, we ended up giving up. We left, we went back home, and we continued to worry about her. But she came back. We knew she was alive. We let her into our home many times. She stole from us. She stole from her parents. She stole from her kids. Us, we were kids. She did a lot of things that you think that like you could never forgive somebody for, and we just thought like we tried to help her so many times, and nothing ever seemed to go anywhere. I know this was something that took a large toll on my family at the time, and it still does to this day. A lot of people in my family don't talk to her. Uh, we we got her into halfway houses. We got her into rehabs, and we went to her graduation ceremonies, and every time we hoped that it would be her last. I remember going to a graduation ceremony one time, and I was probably like 11 at this time. I wrote a big long thing, and I had everybody crying. I was crying because I knew like my aunt was someone that was so special to me growing up, even before I knew that she was using drugs. And I always looked up to her. She was more like a big sister to me than an aunt. So I was very naive about the situation, and I never thought that she was that bad. So lives went on. She was still addicted to drugs for a really long time. And throughout this process, she ended up getting pregnant, and she used drugs the whole time. She didn't get the prenatal care. She not like many ultrasounds or anything like that. So whenever she got pregnant and she had her little boy, it wasn't until after that she found out that her son had a disability. A study in 2012 from health research funding stated that 5 out of every 1,000 births in the United States is that of a drug-addicted baby. Although I don't know for sure if her son was addicted to drugs. After she had her son, she found out he had the disability. At the time, doctors at the hospital that she delivered him in did not know much about his disability. They couldn't diagnose him, and it wasn't until later that she took him to a children's hospital, and he was diagnosed with AMC, arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. It's a congenital disorder that causes restricted movement in more than one of a person's joints. In my cousin's case, it affected both his arms and both his legs. One in 3,000 births are affected by AMC. This disorder can be caused by infectious agents such as drugs, toxins, or physical agents, as well as just genetic factors and maternal disease. She learned a lot about his disability and did what she was told to by professionals, such as getting him surgeries that weren't really needed because it is a disorder. It can try to be helped, it can try to be fixed, but in his case, the surgeries didn't help. He wore braces as a baby to try to correct his arms and legs, but he still, till this day has AMC. So, it was not long after my aunt gave birth and had her son that she lost custody of him. And it was because of her drug addiction. She wasn't ready to give that up yet. And now my cousin was without a mother, and soon he was going to be without a father because his father passed away in a motorcycle accident. Many years passed by with my aunt being in active addiction. She didn't have custody of her sons, and in that time, she got pregnant with another son. This son did not have a disability, but she also lost custody of him as well. We all know the absence of a parent can affect a child, nevertheless, a child with a disability, because they are trying to learn themselves. They don't understand what's going on, and they know that they're different. So it was hard for him because he didn't have his mom or his dad to talk to. I know it affected me. I can relate. I can relate to not having both parents because my parents were divorced. So I didn't get to see both my parents often, and it played a really hard toll on like my mental health and my outlook towards, my parents. So I also didn't have a stable aunt in my life, which also affected me very much. I could only imagine how hard it was for my cousin to not have both parents and go through the most important years of his life with a disability and not having a father or a mother by his side. He is 10 years old now, about to be 11, and he uses a motorized wheelchair to get around, lives with his grandparents from his father's side, and he has attended 2 schools, which he has been given a individualized education plan. The only difference now is that his mother, my aunt, has overcome her drug addiction. Well, not overcome because she's going to have to live with it for the rest of her life and fight it and whatnot, but she's fighting to be in both of her sons' lives. She is 4 years sober, and she is many steps closer to being the mother she and many others thought she would never be. She is a huge part of my life and an even bigger part of her immediate family. She is learning more and more about her son's disability and how to care for him. She is active in his school environment. The most important aspect is that she has changed for the better. She still has to go every day of her life fighting for her addiction and keeping it tucked away. She is the backbone of her family, and she is the mother of 2 amazing little boys, one who just happens to have a disability. The circumstances she has been given has only made her stronger of caring for her sons. After seeing what my aunt has went through from a niece's perspective, now I have the experience to talk about how I can relate from a mother's point of view. From firsthand experience, I know how hard it is to be a single mother or being a mother in general, but I will never be able to comprehend how hard being a single mother who has a drug addiction, on top of the responsibility that comes along with having a child with a disability and another child that also needs attention. Even now, my aunt is sober and is fighting for custody of her sons. She has to continue to learn how to live a normal life, learn more about her kids, and face financial responsibility as well. I cannot compare myself as a single mother to another single mother's hardships because everyone has troubles that are unique to them, and some people may not think another person's is as important or as severe as one's, but to each of us, we all know that things can be hard, and just because something's not hard for someone else, it may be really hard for another person. Being on the outside looking in on my aunt's situation allowed me to learn lessons that weren't meant for me. In 2019, I was married at 19 years old. I ended up separated from my husband and alone. In 2020, I gave birth to my daughter, and I never expected to be getting a divorce that young, and I definitely never expected to be doing it, raising a daughter by myself. Just like I'm sure that my aunt did not plan for her life to go the way it was going for so long. One thing that my aunt and I both have in common is that we never gave up. We chose to continue to better ourselves and make the most out of everything we have went through. We both chose to make better choices for our children to grow up and be proud of their mothers. She is now married, a manager at a factory, and she has a house that her sons will soon be able to call home. I never quit school, and my daughter and I live in our very first own apartment. With all that being said, my hope is that for talking to you guys today, that our stories have made an impact on your perspective on change. And though in circumstances where it feels nearly impossible to see that someone can change, it is possible. It just takes a great amount of time, love, and courage to be there for the ones that you care about. I hope today I have inspired you all to have a kind, open heart to those that are fighting battles. So now I want you all to think about the stigma I mentioned when I first started speaking. Have you all ever said once an addict, always an addict, or they don't change? Well, after hearing the story of my aunt and my own story, I hope you have found a new sense of optimism when it comes to those around you who have an addiction or any type of situation that you don't think that they'll make it out of, or you don't think that they'll change for the better. So, thank you.